Okay, here we go. Going live. 3, 2, and 1. It's loading. It's not me.
Okay. Really think about it today.
It's probably like, we have to resurface these files. We haven't used these files in a while. I'm clicking other things on the soundboard and nothing's coming up either. It's got the spinning wheel of death. We'll add it in post.
Welcome to the After Playlist Podcast, the music playlist discussion and reaction podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Lee.
And I'm Terry Yo.
And today we're going to be discussing the production technique known as the beat switch. This is where, if you're unaware, the instrumental backing on a song is noticeably altered and has a different, distinct production than what came before it. This is often joined with a flow switch up by the artists. I say flow switch up because it's typically found, at least today, in rap songs and hip hop. It's often tied to whatever themes the song is conveying. Unsurprisingly, if you've at all listened to our podcast before, some of our favorite songs use beat switches, and we're going to talk about it today.
We love music and love talking about it, but first, let's introduce the songs featured in today's episode. In no particular order, /particular order, we're going to go with, the first song is DNA by Kendrick Lamar, followed by Not Alike by Eminem and Royce the 5'9", collectively known as Bad Meets Evil, but that's a whole other thing. Never by Jid, Soul Food 1 and 2 by Logic, Broke as Fuck by Cordae, Slow Down Turbo by Rich Brian, Cabaret by Justin Timberlake and Drake, Medicine Man by Dr. Dre featuring Eminem, Anderson .Paak, and Candice Pillay, What's Your Point by Mamma Mia, Mia X, Fat Joe, and Snoop Dogg, followed by Be Great by BackWordz, Despicable by Grandson, Twisted Heat by Rough Riders featuring Twista and Dragon, and finally, Down to the Wire by Hybrid. If you haven't already listened to the songs we're about to discuss, there's a link in the description, aka the show notes for this episode, for direct links to the playlist for your listening pleasures.
And finally, before diving into the actual episode, we have some quick after playlist disclaimers. Number one, as always, we respect everyone's opinion, regardless of how wrong and awful it may be. Number two, we're not too bad with profanity, but sometimes a few explicit words may slip out occasionally, so you've been warned. And number three, we're just talking about the music, not the artist's real life, personal, or cancelable issues. Regardless of what anyone has done before, after, or during the recording of this, don't bring it to our doorstep because we want to talk about it.
Right.
And without further ado, let's dive on in.
All right. So, me being the more musically focused person between the both of us, the beat switch, it does something for me. I absolutely thoroughly love it when a artist or producer decides to switch it up halfway between the song and the song continues as if the beat switch didn't happen, more or less, or it gets a little bit more amped because of it. It's not like a immediate pause and then switch it to another song. Sometimes it's just seamless. And I love the creative ways that it can be done. So for me, as a former producer, there's a difference between the variation. Obviously, there's variations between songs, but then when you can marry two or more distinctive sounds and force it to blend together and still maintain the same narrative or the same feel for that particular song, to me, it does something. How does it when you were listening to it? How did you feel?
Yeah, man. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I feel like, it definitely is. I think, especially after listening to this playlist on repeat recently, that it's a good mark of skill for a producer to be able to do that seamlessly, like you were just saying, and be able to bring these two, what a lot of times should be very disparate, should be two totally different songs, right? And then be able to bring it together. I do want to point out real quick, I knew you were excited for this episode because I remember you texted me one afternoon and you're like, hey, I have this idea for, an idea for a topic for an episode. want to do a beat switch episode. And I was like, yeah, that's an awesome idea. We should definitely do that. And it was like the next day you text me, it's like, all right, so I got my playlist ready for the beat switch episode. I'm like, man, he really wants to do this beat switch episode. But yeah, it's definitely, as someone who doesn't have as much of a production background, it kind of caught me by surprise. I think I mentioned this to you like whenever we first were building the playlist or whatever, but a lot of my favorite songs have beat switches or something similar that change it up in a very, very, very noticeable, drastic way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about that. I think, it also goes back to, as we've talked on the podcast before, about music gumbo. Just whenever you're able to merge different sounds together, it's just, for you and me, man, it does something for us. Like,
absolutely,
the regular music just doesn't scratch that same itch.
Absolutely. And to me, it further paints the narrative. So kind of going back to what we talked about in the classical music episode, it's hard. It's okay. Let me take a step back. It's hard in hip hop, for one, because hip hop is based on repetition and sampling and taking different elements and kind of revamping it and kind of making your own, along with adding originality to it. Whereas a composition natively has ebbs and flows throughout the entire composition. There's not really much repetition. There may be parts that are similar, but it's designed to be different throughout the whole thing. So to me, the beat switch concept, or the art of doing it, kind of marries that sound, that technique into a modern way, like bringing that ability to change the entire composition without changing the whole picture, if that makes sense.
Right. I was thinking about this, and without looking it up, I wanted to just talk about it kind of blindly and then see what your thoughts on this were. Maybe you might have more knowledge, but I have a strong feeling, a strong assumption that a lot of, like, for modern hip hop, the idea of a beat switch is rooted in like the DJing roots of the genre. 100%. Because like if you're playing for a live audience, you don't really want to have that dead time in between songs. So I'm sure the better DJs would find ways to incorporate the switch from one song or one beat into another, like to make that stylistically like pleasant to listen to, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then also going back to speaking purely from like the hip hop beat switch part, that is 100% correct. It's definitely rooted partly in the DJ world, partly out of creativity and also partly out of necessity, because certain songs were, had a longer length as far as vocals. And then some, but the beat or instrumental that they would use, it would run out. So they got to throw something else in there to keep it going. You know what I mean? So, Again, you don't want the dead air. And also, you got a 5 minute, acapella. You only got a 4.5 minute beat. You got to flip it up somehow. And then also, even back then, people's focus were, very short. It's even worse now, but even back then, to varying degrees. When you're out there, dancing or whatever else, then a different beat come on, you're like, okay, I like this. It's still the same damn song, but you don't realize because they don't switch the beat up, but it's still the same vocals on top of it. So, again, this episode is primarily hip hop centric, but the beat switch is not just in hip hop.
Our playlist also demonstrates that.
Exactly. And then it even goes back to like even like the old, not old, but like the classic R&B groups like the OJs and the Ozzy Brothers. They've switched songs, but they call it, this is this song part 1 and part 2. Part 2 would be a different variation of the same song, but just put it all together. The most classic beat switch of all time is Bohemian Rhapsody, technically, if you really think about it.
I didn't think about it, but that's got to be up there.
Yeah. So I mean, but we kind of kept that in the modern world for us, because we're hip hop heads and that's our foundation. We love all genres, but this is
and I think this is for our playlist for this episode. This was definitely more of like our favorites that exhibit this versus like what are the best necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can maybe make an argument some of these are at least in the running for the best, but
top tier.
Like this is a strong playlist we got for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, I know you mentioned this is possibly your favorite. It's at least top 3 for me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely up there. Like I can listen to this and I mean it sparks so much joy in me. But okay, I can't bury the lead anymore. Which one caught you by surprise the most?
Oh, easily the BackWordz.
Okay.
Just because, first of all, I never heard of them as a group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it starts, it's like a not like purely metal. It's definitely like a harder rock, if not metal, song for like the beginning, and then it just like hard cuts to. There is a soft. I mean, yeah, I guess soft. But I was gonna say relative to the rest of it, even outside of like the rest of the like hard rock sounds, it's still a pretty soft beat underneath, and it's just totally tonally different.
Mm-hmm.
That it just that one more than and there's a few on here that like definitely caught me a little off guard, but that one by far the most, just because I think just the combination of not knowing anything about BackWordz and that it's kind of I'm not listening to the other songs, but just looking up the group. This seems like that's kind of their thing, is they mix like metal, hard rock with hip hop. But yeah, that was definitely a great example of, like we just said, the beat switch in like outside of hip hop.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's kind of hip hop, but again, just whenever you start fusing genres and everything together, it gets a little blurry line, but
yeah, for sure. So, being transparent, I'd never heard of them either. So I had to reach out because I was trying to find a song. Okay, let's take that back. I could have swore I put this shit on mute. Okay, so we're gonna do that now. Okay, take that back now. So yeah, I never heard of them either. So I was trying to find a song in particular because I knew we were gonna go kind of hip hop heavy, but I also wanted to try to find something that demonstrated the concept of beat switches in the modern era with different genres. But couldn't really find any that I particularly liked. So I reached out to Reddit and I was kind of digging around through there, and they mentioned BackWordz and this song "Be Great," and I never heard of them. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I just, I'm just listening. And me being the professional multitasker that I am, I just had the song on, listening to it, doing other things. And then that hard cut happened. And I was like, what? Hold up. So then that happened, I stopped. And then I went back and watched the music video from the beginning. And I was completely blown away. Did you get a chance to watch the music video at all?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, I am going to spoil some shit for you. The lead singer, his name is Eric July. That is a black man singing that song. The same guy that's rapping. It's the same guy that was singing in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. And then in the video,
I didn't until I looked it up. Because that was one of the questions I had. I was like, is this the same guy? That was actually, I think, the reason I initially looked them up was to see what their like band makeup was and everything.
Yeah. So I was like, what? I was like, okay, go ahead, brother, man, do your thing. And then in watching the video, so in the rap verse, when he's like, pull out the receipts and everything he's talking about, different times and his cameos and all that stuff, he has video evidence of everything he's rapping about.
Oh, that's dope.
So I was just like, bro, he's going in on how he's feeling about it. And then also I like the message behind the song is basically just stop worrying about what everybody else is doing, focus on your own shit, and be focused on yourself and be great ultimately.
Yeah, so, it is a good message. Which I've also just on like the Spotify blurb for them for the band, it lists or it outlines July. I'm trying to remember exactly how I said it. I think it was like Christian anarcho anti-capitalist something, and I was like, that is a mouthful of a descriptor to like have as like this is the messages I'm trying to put out in the world.
It is, and oh my god, I listened to that whole album.
Did you? That's one of the things I plan to do after this episode. I didn't want to take too much time away from the playlist, but
yeah, so I snuck it in, in between listenings, and I listened to the whole album, and whoo, man. Yeah, it's a lot of political talk, a lot of religion talk. It's a lot of definitely anarchist, definitely rebel against the machine-esque.
It's also that's a weird. Those are all like I feel like slightly different, like anarchy and or anarchists and like anti-capitalist and all that like kind of go together. But then you have the Christian into like being a rebel and doing all this stuff. Just I don't know. It's very. it's a unique mix of perspectives that he's bringing to the table.
It definitely is, and you can tell even on the Be Great song that there's particular lyrics that he wanted to cuss but he didn't. So like they don't use profanity at all on their records.
That was one thing I noticed in the song.
Mm-hmm, yep. So that was kind of interesting to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I don't know what the current status of the group is, because I think this album came out in like 2017 or something like that, and
2018.
2018
it might have been 2017. It was around there.
Yeah, so
4 or 5 years ago. 6 years ago.
Haven't heard much haven't really seen anything from them since then, nor have I really thoroughly looked. But if BackWordz and or Eric July, if he out there doing his thing, definitely check them out, because I mean the quality sonically, the production wise, it's top notch. Like imagine if Linkin Park continued their original track, like back in like the end days, like that hardcore new metal sound, before they started doing all the other extracurricular stuff, and then kind of going back to it before Chester passed. Imagine if that sound was still going to this day and also modernized. Like it's like 808s galore, metal, like the screaming and the flow, and it's just like it's top notch. Like the lyric,
it is top notch.
Yeah, you'll definitely
I second what Terry was saying here. Definitely check them out. I'm out of all the groups, out of all the artists on here, this is definitely the one I'm most looking forward to, like going and listening to like just their album.
Nice.
Which I say that most of these people I've listened to a lot already, but that doesn't disprove what I just said. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm still excited for them. They're good.
There you go.
Making up my own arguments and like countering them in my own head. Okay, well, was that are you agreeing with me that was your favorite, like, or most interesting, or do you have another pick?
Okay, so that one was definitely top tier, because again, when I first heard it, I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah, it really blew me away the first time.
Absolutely. So that really kind of rocked my world. The other one that rocked my world initially, when I first heard it, when it came out, was Medicine Man with Dr. Dre and Eminem. When that was part of Dr. Dre's Compton album, when the Straight Outta Compton movie soundtrack that he did, that served as his third album, because this man refuses to put out albums.
Which I had not heard this song in several years, so just for that, thanks for putting it on here.
Absolutely.
It's nice to listen to it again.
Yeah, it definitely stayed in my rotation, but I remember that day specifically. I was at one of my old apartments, and I was like, I think I was like halfway, like I was like listening to it. Like when it came out, I had my headphones on, and I'm just like listening to it, brushing my teeth, and that Eminem part came on, and I like spit the toothpaste across I was like, oh shit. I was like, whoa.
That checks out.
Like I was not expecting that beat drop to happen as hard as it did. So just Eminem in general is I mean, the guy's a talent. I mean, you can get into the debates of Slim Shady versus Marshall Mathers versus the GOAT, and whether or not him being a white man, he should be a hip hop, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. The verse is tight. The verse is hardcore. It's good.
Man,
he wrote the beat. It was amazing.
That note, what's crazy is just recently I've seen like a few different places, like within the last, I don't know, 2 weeks to a month, I've seen like online people talking about like people dissing Eminem, but the reason they say they don't like him, and this is what's tripping me up, is they're like, he's too good, he's too technical, and I'm just like, what are you talking about right now? He is so far above everyone else in skill level that he's now looped back around to people not liking him because he's so good.
I mean,
man,
honestly, that's pretty much it. Like when you're so good that you become the villain, because you're too good. I mean.
But like as a listener, how do you listen to like just how skillful this is such a long tangent we're going on, but I just, man, I don't know. It bothers me that people don't like something because it's too good. It's like, why are you listening? You prefer trash? What is wrong with you?
I mean, there are some bottom dwellers out there, dude. I'm just like,
I'm not saying everyone has to like Eminem. I totally get if you don't like him, that's fine. Like who you like, don't like who you don't like, that's whatever. But just, I don't know. Just that reason alone bothers me. He's too good. I don't like him. He's too technical. It's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you on that one. That's, if you don't like somebody, at least be able to articulate the reason why and have a valid argument. If you just
like I see some people say he's a corny white guy. If that's how you feel, fine. I can accept that.
Okay.
I don't agree with it. I can accept it.
Again, like I said, have a valid argument. Corny white guy doesn't mean anything. Like, what does that mean?
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, because technically, damn, I mean, if we really want to go bar for bar, bring up Weird Al, White and Nerdy. Weird Al out-rapped everybody in that fucking game. Like,
that's true. He did better than Chameleonaire, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. I don't even like the original version anymore. To be honest,
I think most people didn't after his parody came out.
Yeah, like come on, like we're like bar from bar, like let's not go there. But okay, moving along from that tangent.
Well, I want to go straight into the flip of that. What? Okay, that's some of our favorite. Do you have a least favorite or a least interesting, kind of most boring, didn't really do it for you song with the beat switch on this playlist?
Okay, so to be fair, all of these did it for me.
Okay. To be fair, I agree with you.
Well. So there wasn't any that didn't do it for me. It definitely did it for me in multiple ways and had to smoke a cigarette afterwards. So I'm totally fine with it. But in comparison to all of them on this playlist, the one that was probably the weakest, but also but nice in its own way, was Cabaret with Justin Timberlake and Drake. So the reason I put that one on there, because number one, Justin Timberlake and Timberland, they're always doing that whole beat switch thing, and never like they've been doing it like since way back when. And Timberland's been doing it since way back when, like his early productions. That's like that became like his trademark.
I was going to say that's like one of his like. Yeah, that's one of his trademarks. A good way to put it. It's one of his like highlighted things of his. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. But for me, I like that one because it was subtle and it snuck up on you. So that's what I liked about that one. Whereas like, you know, like DNA and like JID, those are like aggressive. Like it just said, we're gonna jump right into this and just keep going. Whereas Cabaret, you know, it was like the beat switch happened halfway between Drake's verse and then Drake being a singer as well. He was just singing the melody. So I'm thinking, okay, it's like he just doing like a little melody, whatever, following the beat. And then his verse continues. I was like, hold up, this beat's different. And then and then the bass dropped with that too. And then the hi-hat started going crazy. I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And I started, starting getting hype a little bit at that point. So comparison to everything else on this list is definitely the weaker one, but I still think it's a good one. And then also, I don't think a lot of people even heard this song because it was on the 2020 Experience Part 2. And I don't think a lot of people really checked that
never
album
heard
out.
it before this playlist.
Yeah. So, but yeah. What about you? Or what did you think about Cabaret? Or
I did like Cabaret, and it's kind of a good spot, like right in the middle of the playlist, for like on my initial listen, like through the playlist once I got everything completed. It how do I want to put it? Like I don't know, it hadn't my like where I was going with that just kind of like trailed off in my head. Okay, so let me just backtrack a little bit. I did like Cabaret, and I do agree with you that compared to some of the other songs and some of the other beat switches and production on this playlist, it is a little bit. I don't know why, but the word that keeps popping in my head is like shy. Like I know it's maybe not the best word, but I feel like perfect. The beat is kind of shy in this, at least in like the switching part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I like that descriptor for it. Because it's not like in your face. It's like, okay, we're gonna change it, but not be too aggressive with the change, but still hype it up just a little bit. It's like turning the volume up from like 5 to like 7. Like you didn't go crazy with it.
Another one that I kind of felt was not in the same vein as Cabaret, like sonically or anything, but in the same vein as like what we just said with just slightly turning it up was What's Your Point?
Okay.
And again, I think this may be because I don't necessarily have quite. This was one of the ones I looped it like on repeat a couple of times to like where exactly and how exactly is this beat switching up? Like I want to try and like pinpoint exactly because I kept missing it.
Really?
And it was kind of it was like, for me, man, listening through it, it was kind of subtle. At least like the first few times. So for me, this one was not, again, like I enjoyed all of these immensely, but that was the one because I think it took me a few times to really like zero in on that.
Okay. But you did catch it though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Took me a few times, but yes.
Okay. Okay.
Now, well, you sounds like you have something you want to say about that specifically.
That was one of the songs that actually inspired this topic in general.
Really?
Because I remember when I first heard that song, like my mind was blown. Like I was like, oh, okay, that's a unique take. Saying like, what's your point? We're all the same. but how each rapper represents a different type of hip hop, and the genre switched for their verses on each one. So that was pretty dope. How Fat Joe had a New York style beat, then Beats by the Pound switched it over to like a West Coast inspired beat for Snoop Dogg verse, and then switched it over to like a New Orleans, funky guitar riff for Mia X's verse. And then for them to all still have the same tempo, the same cadence, and how everything blends seamlessly with each other. I thought that was dope creatively.
It does. I think, okay, so I think part of it for me was, one, it was a pretty seamless blend. And then two, let me ask you a question. Was there like, production wise, sonically wise, was there like a through line on the beat throughout the whole song that like stayed consistent?
Mainly the tempo.
Just the tempo? Okay.
Just the tempo, and then like in the chorus, like how the chorus fit on everything. Because the beat changed for each one. It was a different drum pattern, different instrumentation. I know Fat Joe's part and Snoop Dogg's part, they both had pianos in it, but I think they switched the piano to guitar for Mia X's part. But outside of that, just mainly like the bass line. I mean, everything just like it was literally 3 different beats mushed together.
Maybe it was just the tempo. I don't know. The first couple listens, like I said, I had a hard time differentiating, or maybe just again I needed to, or because I was still in my kind of lyric focused mindset. It took a few times to break myself out of that. But okay. With all that being said, though, I do kind of want to go into a point where I was talking to a buddy whenever I was trying to find my last song, and he had recommended a couple songs that I didn't really. I ended up not picking them for a couple reasons. So looping back around to what you just said about like DNA and JID, like Never by JID, they are very aggressive, and it's very much, and even both Soul Foods are like this as well, where it is very much kind of like they just took 2 songs and like put them together, right? And it is kind of a hard aggressive like switch on that. That obviously, again, these were some of my favorite songs, but I think why most of my songs are that way is because I had a hard time at first, like really, if it's kind of a more subtle beat switch, I had a hard time like picking up on it. So whenever I was like first making the playlist, there had to be like this hard cut for me to be like, oh yeah, this is the beat switch right here. This is where it's at. So whenever my friend had recommended me some songs, I actually turned them down. At first I was like, he's I'm blanking on the name of the song, the title of the song, but it was some will.i.am song that definitely, I went back and listened to it, definitely does have a beat switch, but it was kind of a more subtle beat switch. And I was messaging him and I was like, I don't think I'm going to go with this one. And he was like, why? And he's getting all upset. And I was like, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. According to totally arbitrary definitions I just made up, I feel like this song is more of a beat change, and I'm looking for more of a beat switch. Yeah. And I didn't know exactly how to verbalize what I was feeling. So I wanted to talk about it with you and see what your thoughts on that were. Do you think there's like...
Yeah.
There's... I mean, obviously there's a difference, but like, should there be like a different like demarcation between the two, or should it all just be beat switch? And like, what, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that in general, I guess?
Well, in general, for me, like, I mean, there's different levels to it. And like, I had some songs that I had picked out as well that weren't as aggressive, and they were like more of a variation or a change or just like a modification to like how the song was. And to me, I like that personally because I pick up on those little things, but I also had you in mind as somebody who doesn't really listen to production level like that.
And I do like that stuff. It's just I don't pick up on it as easily. I have to kind of have someone, either have to have like very focused listening on my part, or I have to have someone like you or someone who's more knowledgeable kind of point it out to me. Yeah. So it's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just a higher barrier, I guess, for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's different focus. Like, like you'll point out a lyric that I'll just gloss right over, and they'll be like, oh shit, that was profound. So, I mean, it's different strokes for different folks, but ultimately I think there's different levels. I mean, there's like the whole beat change, beat switch. I mean, they're all synonyms, and we're kind of splitting hairs ultimately, but
totally.
I definitely agree that there's different levels as far as how aggressive the change can be, or if it be a subtle like variation or a little tweak on something. Like there's there's a song by Hybrid, not this one that's on the playlist, but there's another song by them called Falling Down that I absolutely love. And the only thing that changes is the tempo, like after the midpoint of the song, so like there's like a little bridge, and then the bass comes back in, but the bass line changes. the beat stays the same, but the bass line changes. And I get so hyped just because of that bass line change, because it goes from doom, 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 like that throughout the whole beat. And then when that bass line change, it goes doom, 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 doom. So it becomes more lively. To me, I like that because I'm like, okay, now we're cranking it up a little bit. And then when you can do that kind of change and then marry that with the previous melody, I mean, like I'm putty pretty much at that point.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, I'm in, like I'm hooked for life. So, and a lot of producers do that, and and a lot of older songs do that too, where like they'll just kind of riff a little bit. Like you'll have a repetitious part that goes throughout the whole melody, but then you have a part that's like an accompany part, or the bass line will kind of vary, change up a little bit. So just different levels to it. I do like how you chose some aggressive beat switches, and I think that's dope. That's dope. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy that because again, it is marrying two different songs together, but overall, the theme between both iterations of that song, it creates a cohesive thought, a cohesive song in general, and like I think that's pretty dope. And then also, me being a person that like, hey, why have A or B? Let's do both.
C. Both.
Yeah, why not both? Put both of the bitches together. Boom, you got a whole hit.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy those kind of things. So I am curious, beyond BackWordz and Be Great, what change made you? What's the word I want to say? Was a pleasant surprise or a pleasant what the hell is happening?
I'm trying to think back to some of my picks, like the first time I heard them.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't think I had any what the hell is happening for any of our picks.
Okay.
Hold on, let me pull up our list of all the songs here. I definitely didn't have any like what the hell. I mean, okay, while I'm thinking about it, do you want to talk about yours?
Oh, for sure. So I had two moments. Initially, the first time I heard Soul Food, the original Soul Food by Logic, that kind of threw me off initially because I discovered Logic way back. It was like during a BET hip hop thing, and he was like in a cipher, and I was like, "Who's this random albino kid?" Because it was like a black and white video, and I didn't know he was biracial. I was like, "Well, this dude hella light." So
you weren't wrong.
So and then the album dropped, and I was like, "Okay, cool." So this is on Logic's debut album, Under Pressure. And I listened to the first song, and then I think Soul Food was like maybe like track 2 or 3 on there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I
was at the front.
Yeah, and I was working a part-time job at that time, and I just kind of I couldn't really like I just press play and just let it do its thing. And at the time I was like, that's a lot of songs on here, but I didn't realize he was doing like a lot of switch it up, between the songs or whatever. And then when this one came on, I was like, okay, after I listened to it another time, I was like, okay, that's weird. I said, where's that third song? Because I'm like trying to find that part, and I didn't realize that was still Soul Food. I thought it was Soul Food, and then that other half of Soul Food was another song, and then the song after that. So I was trying to find that. I was like, where's that one song I heard? I know I heard something. And then I really actually paid attention and like looked at my screen while I was listening. I was like, oh, that's still part of Soul Food. So that was kind of like a little interesting thing. I was like, okay, I see what you're doing.
I do have a vague memory of having a similar reaction. We're like looking up, where's that Venom Denim song?
Yeah.
Not knowing it was the second part.
Yeah.
So you bringing up Soul Food reminded me. I did kind of have a moment whenever No Pressure came out in I think it was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
2019 to 2020. And he has Soul Food 2.
Yeah.
Obviously, I recognize it because like Logic, that first Under Pressure album was like one of the first albums that like you and me really bonded over musically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always just been like a favorite album of mine. And of course, as you know, I've probably listened to Soul Food, like the first one, countless times by this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever that came on, immediately I'm like, oh, this is, I'm I kind of did what you were saying, where whenever the album came out, I just hit play at the front. I didn't look at anything or what it was or anything. So then whenever that Soul Food 2 came out, and it's not on No Pressure, it's not at the front of the album. It's kind of more in the middle towards the end. It's a little bit further down. So I was like, kind of, I'd been listening to several songs. I'd been jamming to with my phone off to the side. That comes on immediately. I'm like, I know that beat.
Yep.
So Soul Food 2, okay. And I'm expecting at this point, because of Soul Food 1, I'm expecting the beat switch, right? But it's still, because the first half, I thought it was going to be like basically the same beat for both halves of Soul Food 1. So that kind of threw me off. And just the direction he took on Soul Food 2, the direction he took the song after the beat switch versus Soul Food 1.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of, I guess, is what you were asking me. Like, wasn't necessarily like, what the hell? But it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see you're mixing it up. You're doing it different. You're sampling yourself, which is like boss baller move, first of all. And 100%. Then you're also like still doing something different and creative with it. And like, he even talks about going into that second verse, like, I just want to have some like basement fun type shit. Like, I don't want to be, all super serious. Let's just have fun with it. I'm rapping on my own beat. What's it matter?
Exactly.
It's like the feeling he brings to it, which is just great.
Yep. 1000%. Okay. So the one I was trying to get you to talk about, cause I'm kind of leading the witness here a little bit, but I wanted your thoughts on the Twisted Heat song with Twista and Dragon. The first time you heard that.
It's one of the songs I've heard this song several times in the past.
Okay.
Just randomly different places. So this was one of the ones I haven't heard in a good while, but I had heard before.
Okay.
And this one for me is definitely just a fun song, just with the tempo steadily increasing. It just makes me want to, like, I don't know, man. It makes me all bubbly and like amped up at the same time. It's great. And of course, my love for Twista is widely known. It should be if you've listened to the podcast. Absolutely. At this point.
Absolutely.
I've not heard a ton of Rough Riders, but I do like them. Not heard a ton of Drag On, but just the name Drag On, like, immediately you're okay in my book.
Yeah.
And then you listen to the song, he's okay in the song, I suppose.
Yeah. He's all right. I mean, like, Drag On was like, Rough Riders was setting up Drag On to be kind of like DMX Jr. Essentially, but he never really kind of soared to those heights. But, he all right. Like, his album was kind of womp womp the first time I heard it. I went back and re-listened to it a couple months ago. And now with older, more mature ears, it's a little bit better than what it was when I first heard it back in the day. But he hasn't really done much other than, I don't know. I really haven't been seeing, to be honest with you. I've really been checking for it. So we might have to do a deep dive and see where he at. I don't know. At some point, I'm not committed to that. For the record, I am not committed to doing a deep dive on Dragon. But yeah. But to me, I just like Swiss Beats is funny in general.
He is.
So
or they are. I don't know if it's just one dude or what, but
no. It's one dude. Okay. He's actually Alicia Keys' husband. If you're not familiar.
I was not familiar with that.
Yeah. That's a whole another drama right there. We can talk about that.
That's
later.
A whole other episode we could do. Yeah. Maybe
folks were happy and mad about that one for sure. But anyway, I just like how you said, like, this is volume 2. Get ignorant. Like, just started cranking up, and I was listening to it at work. And so I'm listening to it at work, and I had to call my manager into my room for a moment. And I still have the song playing in the background. I turned it down a little bit, and it was towards the end of the song where it sped up, but then it kind of slowed down again, and it was more of an instrumental at that point. So my manager, he's in there, in my room, doing his thing or whatever, and he kind of started bobbing his head to the fast part, and then it slowed down, and then the instrumental started going on, and then he just looked at me, and he was like, "You listen to all kind of shit, huh?"
Yes.
I was like, you don't know what you're gonna get when you walk in this room, man. I listen to everything. So that tickled me to death this week. I was like, I got called out. Man, it's like, you listen to all kind of shit. What the hell? So,
well, let me ask you a question. Was this song? This one was on the original? Because I know you had like added a couple others like after you had first sent me, and I was trying to remember if this one was on that initial first playlist or if you added it kind of later on once I started adding some of mine to it.
Okay, so this was it was kind of in between. So there were a few cuts that so basically the last two were the ones that I was struggling to decide whether or not I wanted to keep them or take them out, because I was struggling with the definition of the beat switch, just like how you were initially. So I was like, because that's kind of a beat change, but it's still kind of fun, and it's something unexpected. So I was kind of worried about that one. And I said after a while, I was like, after listening to it a couple of times, I was like, this song was too fun to not put it on here and like to let other people hear it and give it the props and recognition that it truly deserves. So I ended up throwing it on there. There was another song that I wanted to put on there, but then upon listening to it, I didn't like the first half of the song as much as the second half, and I didn't want to subject people to that torture as much.
Fair.
And that was an old Missy Elliott song called "You Don't Know" featuring Lil Mo, and that song starts off with full R&B vocals for the first half, full R&B first verse and second verse, and Lil Mo, who's also R&B singer, and people know her from singing the hook of Ja Rule's "Put It On Me" and all that good stuff. So she's known for her extra ad libs and everything. And then it's like the interlude part, not interlude, but the bridge of the song is these two women get into an argument, and then the last half they actually get into a verbal spat with each other, and the beat switches to a rap song, and they're rapping at each other. So I was going to use that as a genre flip, but then around that time is when I kind of found BackWordz, and I was like, okay, that kind of could convey that message that I wanted to do. But if you want to go and check out that old Missy Elliott song, it's off of her second album, The Real World, but I didn't want to subject too many people to that torture.
Okay, fair.
Yep.
I was just curious because I didn't remember. Like whenever you first hit the playlist, I kind of listened immediately, and for some reason I wasn't remembering that one being on there. I was like, am I just completely misremembering it?
No. I kind of
it was added later on.
Yeah, it was added later on, going back and forth. And then also I was fighting to not put the hybrid song on there because we did that whole hybrid deep dive, and I was like, I didn't want to put that on there again. I said, but it's such a good beat switch, and it's a good beat
switch, and it's another good example of like an alternative in the sense of like alternative from compared to hip hop genre that does a beat switch very well. So, I mean, we have what this one, the Grandson song, and BackWordz is like really the only three like genre flips we have on the playlist.
Yeah.
So I thought it's a good representation, kind of again just show that point about beat switches.
Yep.
So it deserves its place, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. So we discussed the songs, the ones we liked, why we liked them, and why we didn't like them. Let's give a shout out to the producers of these songs. So DNA was produced by Mike Will Made It.
Mike Will Made It. Sorry, I had to do it.
Not Alike by Eminem was produced by Tay Keith, Ronnie J, Eminem, and Q Beats. Q Beats, no relation. The Never by Jid was produced by Christo and Childish Major. Logic Soul Food 1 was produced by, oh gosh, man, you kill me.
Hold on. Oh, wait, I think I got you on this one. This is a weird name. Hold on, let me find it. Okay, Logic, Soul Food by Logic was produced by Alkebulan, DJ Khalil, and Six.
Okay.
Alkebulan, I think. I'm probably butchering that, but that's what it looks like.
Okay, you said it better than what I was going to say. And Soul Food 2 by Logic was produced by Logic because he sampled his own stuff. And 6 and MTK. Broke as Fuck by Cordae. Which, you know what? Let's pause this real quick. That was dope. I really like that song.
I actually want to talk about like the last point that I really wanted to I had in mind to talk about was the how beat switches can kind of tie themes together, and Broke as Fuck by Cordae is like such a perfect example of that. Like in practice.
Yes.
Because the whole first half of the song is like the title of the song, talking about him like being broke and like having to do, this, that, and the other to survive. The second half of the song, both lyrically and sonically, musically, is like a victory or like a celebration tune, or it has like that feeling to it to me. Like it's like or celebration is a better word. It's celebrating like it literally opens up the second half of the song after the beat switch with like, now I'm out partying on yachts and I'm like living it up versus, I'm not having to worry about like where my next meal is going to come from anymore. And just like that is like that's just such a good, man. It's just so good to have both like the theme of like coming from nothing and now you've made it, or at least you're starting to make it, and like what that looks like and how you feel about it, tied to the music itself. It's just so man.
Yes, I totally agree. And I did hear this song before, but I haven't gone back into it. Have not gone back and re-listened to it until we added it to this playlist. And yeah.
And Cordae has been blowing up in the last couple. I think he's gonna be. I'm hoping because everything I've heard of him, I've loved. I'm hoping he like really blows up and is like a name that we're hearing about for years and years from now.
Absolutely. Same. Hard same on that one. But mad shouts out to the producers of Broke His Foot. That was produced by Take a Day Trip, Rochelle, Coop the Troop, Kid Culture, and Smoke Ono. Next one up, we want to give a shout out to the producer of Slow Down Turbo by Rich Brian. The producer of that one was Rich Brian himself. Beacon, Bailey, Philly, Teddy Sinclair, The Donuts, Trophies, Risque, and SK, I guess.
Okay, real quick, I want to interrupt you again. What did you think about this one? This one was an interesting one for me.
This one, okay.
Because specifically because it has multiple beat switches,
100%,
which was the main reason I decided on this one as my last pick because of the multiple.
Yes, I like the multiple, and also like how the
it also has a speed up part.
Yes,
much like Twisted Heat.
It did. Yeah, for those reasons exactly. So I like that it had multiple switches. Also like how it sped up and then slowed down. I like the effect that was used on it. It was pretty dope, and I like how thematically it all tied together. And then personally, I actually like the end of the song because it kind of just.
I really like the end of the song.
Really
actually,
just like smooth and kind of fades out a little bit. And I'm just like, okay, you kind of like the message of the whole song was like, okay, slow down. You're doing too much, and then the turbo party kicking up a little bit. So I get the tug of war nature of the song. It's like, you're trying to slow down, but you're also trying to speed up. So
and it all built because of that tug of nature. For me, how I feel like is like pressure is building as you're listening to the song, and once it gets to that outro where it is much more, it has that soft outro kind of piano-y music playing or whatever. It's like the pressure is just like the valve is opened up for that, and it's just slowly coming out now.
Yes, like
it's just like it's releasing. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that song is like the epitome of what my dad tells me all the time. He'll say, "Take your time, but hurry up." All right, moving on to the rest of the songs. Cabaret by Justin Timberlake. That was produced by Timberland. Justin Timberlake and Daniel Jones. Medicine Man was by Dr. Dre, was produced by Dim Joints and Focus. What's Your Point by Mia X was produced by Beast by the Pound. Be Great by BackWordz was produced by BackWordz. They're a live band, so they produce their own shit.
Are you saying BackWordz or BackWordz?
You know what? Let me rewind that back. Because I was saying BackWordz, but I'm looking at BackWordz, and these words that's coming out of my mouth is not saying the right words. So Be Great by BackWordz was produced by BackWordz because they're a live band and they play their own instruments and they do their own thing. Despicable by Grandson. Okay, let me pause myself on this one. Okay, so when I first heard this one, I wasn't expecting that aggressive of a chorus with that because it started out very acoustic. And it was kind of just like, kind of just like a little vibe. And then, of course, you kind of hear like the kind of build up, but I wasn't expecting it to go as hard as it did in the chorus. And I love that part of it. Also,
go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say, I've listened to Grandson for several years now, and I just wanted to point out how delighted I was that you included this song. I've not, just I guess because of YouTube's algorithm and everything, I've not like actually listened to them in some time before this, but Despicable is definitely a song I'd heard before and a song I had to love. So as soon as I saw it on here, I was like, yes, that is such a great pick. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to think of it.
Yes,
but yeah, so I just wanted to give you props for picking a good song that I also happen to love already.
Sweet. And I thoroughly love how this song basically says, this is the I ain't shit anthem.
Yes.
He basically he was like, "Don't fuck with me. I'm a sorry. Look, I ain't shit. Like I'm terrible.
I'm terrible. If I was you, I wouldn't love me neither."
Yeah.
It's like
he was like,
that's how he ends like the chorus or whatever. It's just like, man.
He was like, look, I'm telling you right now, like if you mess with me, like I'm just gonna fuck you and leave. Like I ain't shit. So that's basically what the whole song was about, and I just crack up at that part of it. But yeah, the producer of that was Boone. I guess it's pronounced that way, Boone.
It also makes me think of Daffy Duck, just inexorably. It just Despicable.
Oh.
You know, that's something I always have to like try really hard to divorce whenever the song comes on.
God dang it. Okay, thank you for ruining that for me. Now I'll be thinking about.
You're welcome. I thought for like a good 10 seconds. I was like, should I tell him that? Or should I not? I'm gonna tell him.
Despicable. If I was you, I wouldn't love me either. It's terrible.
There definitely should be a Daffy Duck remix of that song somewhere.
Man, I'm quite sure you can get an AI to do it. That'd be hilarious. And the last two, Twista Heat, off the Rough Riders compilation featuring Twista and Dragon, produced by Swiss Beats, and then Down to the Wire by Hybrid was produced by Hybrid. So
because they do all their own stuff.
They do all their own shit. They composers don't fuck with Hybrid. But yeah, so these were the songs that we thought demonstrated pretty dope beat switches. And I just kind of to tie it all together, I just like how you can sonically take two different styles or two different tempos or just literally two different songs and make it into a single song or a single thought. And it's almost like I don't know. I mean, I guess it kind of helps with like the attention span of like some people, because you know how like, as you know, the beat goes on. That song was like 10, 13 minutes.
And on. Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like, it's a nice little, like you're listening to a song and then that happens and it kind of like forces you to re-engage with the song sometimes. So I think when executed correctly, I'm not saying every song should have a beat switch, but it's a nice little like, oh, okay.
It has to be intentional, I feel like. Like, if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to make the song a beat switch, and you just slap it together, it's not going to have the same effect. It's not going to hit the same way.
Yeah.
It needs to be an intentional design choice, I guess, for lack of better words. I feel like there's a better way to say that, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for is like purposeful. Like it has to have an intended purpose. It has to make sense for why the beat is switching, not for the sake of just switching for the sake of being switched. It's like, like at this point of the song, we need to change it up, flip it up, and just kind of re-engage the listener into the point that you're making.
For me, it's just it's amazing that what's amazing about beat switch, especially again, just a lot of my picks are like that hard kind of cut into basically another song. But for me, my favorite part, I think, is just you can have two basically wildly different emotions evoked from one song because of the different sounds you're getting and the different, again, different themes you're talking about, different lyrics being rapped or spoken or whatever it is. Like just the fact that you can have in one 3-4 minute song, you can have like one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum emotion wise is like, to me, that's what music's all about. So yeah. I feel like beat switches just kind of really embody that, getting that range.
Absolutely. It definitely paints the whole picture, the whole story. It's like a complete story sonically. Like it kind of takes you on a whole journey. So, alrighty. Well, thanks for listening to our playlist and hanging out with us this week. Tell us what you think of the playlist. You can find all of our social links, previous episodes, and previous playlists on our website, afterplaylist.com. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/afterplaylist. And once again, don't forget to play and share this playlist with your friends and family. Anybody who got ear holes, just walk around with a boombox and force them to listen because it's worth it.
Yeah, it really is. It will enrich your life.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep on listening.
Keep on listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Black Giraffe made this.